Yo, y'all can hear me? Y'all can hear me? Green light? All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say that over. But I'm saying that just blessed and grateful to be this evolved compared to where I've been in the past, being this sharp, being this, aware, being this dedicated, being this inspired has just taken me to a place of peace that I've never had before. It's taken me to a level of awareness that I haven't had before. It's taken me to a level of being that I've never been before. So the topic of what I'm going to talk about is bold enough to ask, patient enough to wait, humble enough to look crazy until you get your breakthrough. So I'm going to repeat that again. The topic of this is going to be bold enough to ask. One second. Bold enough to ask, patient enough to wait, humble enough to look crazy until your breakthrough comes. And I really want to preface what I'm going to talk about with one thing, because this is all going to tie around the notion of nothing good comes to you without you taking the initiative. But I even want to preface that by saying that you cannot confuse faith with laziness. A lot of people, what they do is they'll say, "Oh, I have faith in this. I have faith in that." They'll say, "You know what? I'm not gonna go out and I'm not gonna do this because I have faith and I trust that it's gonna come to me." And that's a good ideology, but that only works if you take the initiative. You take the initiative in faith that it'll come to you. See, a lot of people, they want to use belief in faith circumstances. I'll repeat that again. They want to use belief in faith circumstances. And basically what that means is when you have belief in faith circumstances, you create two different types of things. Because belief is spiritual. It just causes you to think differently. If you think differently, that's just how it goes. Belief is spiritual. It's mental. But when you have faith, it causes you to do something different because faith triggers a physical response. That's a better way to put it. See, belief is a spiritual, mental response. Faith is a physical response. So you cannot confuse faith for laziness. That does not mean don't do anything because you have faith in whatever you're doing. Because just because you have faith doesn't mean it's going to come. And that's really where I want to go into. I want to go into a brief story. It was a man. I don't know if you all are familiar with this individual, but his name is Zacchaeus. A lot of things I'm going to talk about are biblical based because that's just the way it makes sense. But I will make it make sense to you. By the end of this call, you're gonna have the keys to really be bold enough to ask, patient enough to wait, humble enough to look crazy until it comes. And I want to talk about Zacchaeus for a minute. So Zacchaeus, he lives in a town, and he is the equivalent of somebody that works for the IRS. He was a tax collector. And he was just an ordinary tax collector. He was the chief tax collector. That means he was, big bucks, for lack of a better word. He was big bucks. He was a tax collector. He ran what we would know as a tax collection agency. And a lot of people, they regarded him as somebody that was high dollar, top dollar. They regarded him as we would regard, hold on a second. They regarded him as somebody that the equivalent of like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. So how we regard these types of people is how, in Zacchaeus' time, people regarded him. And that is going to be a big point close to the end. But remember what I said, nothing good comes to people that don't do anything first, because God only meets you in the midst of your well-doing. And I'm going to break that down here briefly because it's going to set up what I want to talk about next. So God only meets you in the midst of your well-doing. A lot of people, they think that they take things and they try to skip around the timeline that things need to happen. They say, oh, asking and is given, seeking you shall find, da, 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 da. They say as soon as you ask, it's put in delivery. Those are all key steps. Those are all key steps. You ask, it is given. You put that out there. You write your affirmations, things of that nature. You do all of these things. Granted, those are good. But you have to do the actions necessary in order to get your goal completed in faith. You don't have faith and then just, I put it out there, I'll have faith it'll come to me. Skip the action. They skip the initiative. Because you have to give him something to work with, because he'll meet you halfway. And I said this analogy a few days ago. I said, God lays the right puzzle pieces on the table and gives you the picture, the reference picture, but it's up to you to put the puzzle together. He gives you everything you need. He gives you the picture. He gives you the right puzzle pieces. All you have to do is put it together. So nothing good comes to people that don't take the initiative. And we're going to really look at this in the story of Zacchaeus, the tax collector, high dollar. So here's what happened. Zacchaeus had heard that a particular individual was coming into town. I'm gonna keep it as neutral as I can. But he heard that this individual was coming into town. He was like, man, actually, I'm gonna put it in today's terms. Okay, let's say, pick your favorite basketball player. Pick LeBron James. So imagine that there are no convoys, there are no special cars. This person is just, walking up to wherever. So let's say that you get word that your favorite basketball player, let's say LeBron James, is coming to your town, coming to your city. And I mean, you are a diehard LeBron James fan. You are going to go see LeBron James wherever he is. And I'm going to stop the story right there, because in the story of Zacchaeus, one major thing is that, yes, he is top dollar. Yes, he has all of these material things, but he has certain limitations because he's short. Imagine a 5-foot millionaire, for lack of a better term. You have high dollars, but you're short. And that was the story of Zacchaeus. And mind you, this is still, the buildup. We haven't really gotten into bold enough to ask, patient enough to wait, and crazy enough to see it through. We really haven't gotten to that point yet. I just wanted to make sense in the sense of Zacchaeus. So back to the story, he was short. So he was going to go meet LeBron James equivalent. Or not LeBron James equivalent. Let's not do that. But, let's say you wanted to go see LeBron James. You're going to go see LeBron James. In this case, Zacchaeus went to go see Jesus because Jesus was coming into town. But he was short. And I don't know if you've ever been to an event. I don't know if you've ever been to, one of the masterminds after the event. But you have to get to the mastermind first so that you have first dibs on the seats. and sometimes they don't even have seats. Like the last event, they didn't have seats. So if you showed up late, more than likely you was in the back of the crowd. And if you're in the back of the crowd, that means it's hot, it's sweaty, a lot of people bumping up on you. You can barely hear, and you probably can't even see. That's just how it is. Now imagine, I'm gonna try to relate it as much to our understanding as possible. But imagine somebody that's 5 foot going to see their favorite chairman, but they show up just a little bit late and they're short. Everybody's bumping up on them. He's small, so we can't really see. Excuse me. And he's not able to get the experience that he needs because of his limitations. And this is where I get into the meat and potatoes. Because we talk about bold enough to ask. Now, ask doesn't always have to be literal, it could be an initiative. Patient enough to wait. That means that although you consistently do the things necessary, you're patient enough to wait it out until it comes. That's faith. Crazy enough humble enough to look crazy until your breakthrough comes. Now we look at Zacchaeus and we know that he's short. We know that he's big. We know that he's a top name. So imagine he shows up to the place where Jesus is coming. Imagine you show up to the mastermind where your favorite chairman is going to be. And guess what? You have to take the initiative. You have to take the initiative. So what is the initiatives that Zacchaeus did? So there was a particular tree where he was he was at. So guess what? I'm gonna go backwards. I don't know. I'm gonna skip. So bold enough to ask, bold enough to take the initiative. Because not a lot of people will do that. Not a lot of people will take the initiative in the mastermind to get closer to the fire, to get closer to the chairman. A lot of people, they'll be comfortable exactly where they're at. They'll be all up against the gate. They'll be all up chilling with the people they came to the mastermind with, and they don't want to get to the fire that is with the chairman. They don't want to get to the front. So you have to take the initiative. You have to, excuse me, or you just simply have to get there earlier. Or you have to come prepared. And I'm kind of gonna get to that later. But we're at taking the initiative right now. You have to take the initiative in order to get what you want. Because nothing good comes to people, or good things come to people that take the initiative. I'm not gonna say nothing good comes to people that don't take the initiative, but the best things happen to the people that take the initiative. And I'm going to draw that picture a little bit later as well. But let's take the initiative of Zacchaeus. Imagine Elon Musk having a favorite mentor, being bold enough to take the initiative and be humble about it. Imagine Elon Musk. Imagine, Robert Kiyosaki, your favorite mentor's favorite mentor, climbing a tree to see his mentor. That's in the story of Zacchaeus. So Zacchaeus, he is a top dollar name in his particular town, country, city, whatever you want to call it. And he was humble enough to realize his limitations, realize that he was short, take the initiative, climb a tree so that he can have the best experience in seeing the person that he wanted to see. So my question to you is, are you bold enough to take the initiative to experience the things that you want to experience? Take the mastermind, for instance. If you show up to a mastermind, are you bold enough to take the initiative in order to get closer to the chairman? When you're at an event, are you bold enough to take the initiative to go into the VIP section with the chairman? And to the chairman, because I know there's going to be a few that watch this video. So, to the chairman, are you bold enough to take the initiative, humble enough to let your downline see you vulnerable, to let your downline see you look crazy so that you can get the best experience that you want? Is that something that you're willing to do? Are you are are you bold enough to get a general admission ticket so that your team can have the best experience? Are you bold enough to take the initiative and humble enough to look crazy? That's in the story of Zacchaeus. He was top dollar, but he was humble enough to let people see him climb a tree, and he didn't care. And that's a key factor too. That's what Nana was literally just talking about. He didn't care. He says, I'm coming to go see a particular individual, and I don't care how I look to you because I'm looking to get something else. So, really, what I want to say, and I want to kind of pause it right there, is that a lot of people, they care too much about not looking crazy that they duck the action needed to get their breakthrough. Like, huh? Sometimes being in this business is not crazy enough. Sometimes paying your subscription is not crazy enough. Sometimes, saying, oh, I trade this, oh, I do that is not crazy enough. That's crazy to the people that's outside. But sometimes you got to look crazy to people that's on the inside. Sometimes it's literally what Nana was just talking about. Sometimes you just got to break away and climb your tree. Sometimes you got to go climb your tree in order to get the best experience, in order to get your breakthrough. That's how it's going to be relatable to us. Sometimes you just got to climb your tree. When we look at what Zacchaeus was doing, I really want to say boldness and humility are one and the same. I kind of want to say that. Boldness and humility are kind of one and the same, because when you're humble, you don't really care about what other people think. If we're being honest, when you're humble about what you're doing, you don't care about what nobody else got to say about what you got going on. With humility, there's a lot of stuff under humility. And there's confidence. With confidence comes boldness. When you look at the humblest people, you look at the people that show the most humility, they're always the most confident. They just don't show it. They choose not to show it. When you show a certain sense of humility, that means it's honestly the fact that you don't care is what makes humility humility. Is that you don't care. You don't care how crazy you look to other people. And that's really the point of this whole thing. Is you gotta be humble enough to not care about being bold about what it is that you're doing. And it's kind of making more sense as I'm talking about it, because if Zacchaeus was not humble enough to climb the tree, he would have never been bold enough to climb it in ever. Think about that. If Zacchaeus was not humble enough, if he was not humble enough for the situation, imagine you're all favorite chairman. Some people, they be geeking over these chairmen. Imagine that. If you were not humble enough to separate yourself, you'll never be bold enough to see it through. Never. Never. You can't have boldness without humility, because boldness without humility is arrogance. You cannot have boldness without humility. because boldness without humility is arrogance. That's just a fact. So, really, where I'm going with this is that sometimes you just gotta look crazy. Sometimes you just gotta look ugly, bro. You just gotta be ugly about it. I think it was somebody at iMillennials 3 that said something along those lines, and they said make a face at the person next to you. I think that's what happened, and it's true. It's true. You got to be bold enough to take the initiative. You got to be bold. You got to be bold enough to be humble. That's a better way to put it. Be bold enough to be humble. Be bold enough to show humility. Because a lot of people are afraid of being vulnerable. A lot of people care too much about what other people think that they're not bold enough to be humble. And that's why you're stuck. That's exactly why you're stuck, because you don't want to look crazy enough. Like I said before, like coming into this space sometimes is just not crazy enough. You look crazy to enough people, it's going to start to make sense to a lot more. Think about that. You look crazy to the people that your family, your friends, the people that don't really understand, but you coming into a space, you got to look crazy here too. Think about it. The most influential chairman, the chairman that we all speak about, were once crazy to somebody, a lot of somebody's, until it made sense. And notice how all the names that you just thought of would not be the people that they are without humility. So we can take a lot from the story of Zacchaeus, because we look at how he, I don't want to say renounced, but he put his status on the back burner for the experience that he wanted. So my question to you is, what are you willing to put on the back burner to get the experience that you want? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to look crazy for in order to get your breakthrough? Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to separate from a lot of people. We talk about separate to elevate. It's the same thing with Zacchaeus. He had to separate himself from the crowd in order to elevate to a point to where he would be able to have the maximum experience that he could. Now, I just talked about the experience. I just talked about the boldness. I just talked about the humility. But we're going to talk for a little bit about what he got in return. Now, for this, I have no choice but to, go a little bit biblical with it. But in the story of Zacchaeus, he goes up to the tree. He kind of puts his identity on the back burner. He puts his status on the back burner in order for him to be humble enough to climb a tree, because a lot of people are seeing him climbing this tree. Imagine you with Elon Musk. Elon Musk is literally climbing a tree in order to see somebody that he wants to see one of his mentors, something of that nature. Imagine that. Put that in your imagination. And you're seeing him do this, like, bro, you're crazy, you're dumb. Like, what are you doing? Everybody else is in the crowd and they're waiting to see this individual. But this individual is climbing a tree so that they can see. That's humility. Because he could have just as easily walked up with his status and just, and he probably would have got to the front. But he was so humble to the point where he didn't care that people saw him climb a tree in order to get what he wanted. But let's talk about what he got in return for that. So Jesus did end up coming to that town. And he says he sees Zacchaeus in the tree. And he tells Zacchaeus, he says, Zacchaeus, make haste. Get out. He says in simple terms, Zacchaeus, get out of the tree. We're going to your crib. That's basically what he says. So as a reward for being humble enough to not care about his boldness, I'm going to rephrase that. In return for Zacchaeus's boldness and humility that he showed by climbing a tree, putting his status on a back burner, he went home with Jesus. like he came to his house. Imagine that. Imagine that, let's say you're at the mastermind. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that one again. Imagine you're at the mastermind and you're like, imagine you're a chairman 10. Imagine you're a chairman 10 and you're at a mastermind. You should be in the front. You should be in the front while the other chairman, but you got a high stand, you got a high chair, you got a tripod that's 7 foot tall with your camera phone on the top of it, and you sitting there on a high chair taking notes, and your whole downline sees it. Like, bro, you're crazy. You're a chairman. Like, you should be in the front. Like, you're crazy. And then David Emenetier pulls up to the mastermind and says, you know what? You're a chairman 10 and you have the humility to be bold in front of your downline. You have the boldness. I said that wrong. You have the boldness to be humble around your downline. You have the humility to look crazy in front of your whole downline. And I recognize that. So you know what? I'm gonna show humility because you show humility. So guess what? I'm gonna go to where you're staying at. Are you staying at this hotel? Bet. I'm gonna stay there for tonight. And now you have access to David Emenetier. Put that into another text. You're a chairman 10 at an event, your team's event, your upline's event. You should be in the chairman section. But guess what? You're not in the chairman section no more. You just go get VIP or you get general admission. Because you know that your team is going to be at this event. You know, you want to make sure that your team is getting value. You want to make sure that, this just think about it like that. I'm just painting the picture right now. Instead of getting the chairman ticket, you get the VIP ticket. And you got a big old stand with a camera phone and you sitting there taking notes. In a sense, that's a huge source of humility. Because if you go to an event and you go to the chairman section, how many of the chairmen actually take notes? How many of the chairmen actually sit there and hand in book, pen in the pad for the whole event? That's something that I have yet to see. But you did not get the chairman ticket because you wanted to get the best experience and be able to actually take the notes that you need to take you to chairman 25, to chairman 50, to whatever next level there is. Imagine that you're a trader. Imagine that you're already a 5-figure trader. Imagine you're already a 6-figure trader. And somebody of the stature of, Matthew Thayer, somebody of the stature of a 7-figure trader, an 8-figure trader, They're in the room and they're presenting. You're already a six-figure trader, but you have the audacity to be humble enough to pen and pad. You already have the status, but you put your status on the back burner so that you can get to the next level. And your whole following sees you do that. And then guess what? That Chairman 750, that 7-8 figure trader now gives you that access because they see you be humble. You got your breakthrough because of your humility. You got your breakthrough because of your boldness. You got your breakthrough because you took the initiative. Now, imagine if Zacchaeus had not climbed the tree. Imagine if Zacchaeus was just in the crowd. He probably would have never gotten the breakthrough that he needed. And we look at some of the other, things that happen in the Bible. We all know about, the miracles, things of that nature. We all know about these things. But if you look at all of them, or most of them, there is a common ground. Is that these people took initiative to get what they wanted. There's three things that I want you to take from this. And that's why I named it bold enough to ask, patient enough to wait, humble enough to look crazy until it comes. Because those are the three things that I want you to take from this. Taking the initiative, most miracles never would have happened if the people never took initiative. Zacchaeus never would have went home with Jesus if he never took initiative. The woman that had the issue of blood for 12 years would have never been healed if she never took the initiative. Lazarus would have never been raised from the dead if his sisters did not take the initiative. So my question to you is, what breakthrough are you blocking by not taking the initiative? What breakthrough are you blocking because you're not humble enough to look crazy in front of others? What breakthrough are you blocking because you're not patient enough to see it through? See, a lot of people, they go and they may take the initiative, but they're impatient. They may have faith, but they're impatient. They may want, all of these levels of success, but they're impatient. They want it to happen on their time. And that's not how it works. The way that I made it make sense the last time I kind of touched on this is that, yes, as soon as you ask for it, it is put in delivery. That's just like on Amazon. As soon as you click the buy now button, it is being prepared to be shipped. The same thing happens for your breakthrough. As soon as you ask for it, it is being prepared to be shipped. Now, once it is shipped, you have to be patient enough for it to come. The only difference between an Amazon package and your breakthrough is that Amazon gives you an ETA. But your breakthrough, you're just going to have to wait and see when it comes. But you're not waiting in inactivity. You're not waiting in, stillness. You have to take the initiative and you have to be humble about it. You have to do the things necessary on a consistent basis in order for you to get the breakthrough that you need. It's necessary on a continuous basis. And, probably the next time I do one of these things, I'll go a little bit deeper into what I mean by you have to continually do the things necessary, because you also have to continue to do the things necessary, although it may not produce any fruit. So you have to really take into consideration the story of Zacchaeus. And there's one more thing that I really want to go over as it pertains to that, is He put his status on the back burner, and he was humble enough to look crazy in front of everyone. He was bold. And he stood in the tree for hours until Jesus came, patient enough to wait it out. And what did he get in return? He got access. He got his breakthrough. But that's not the part of the story that is really good. I'm not saying that the whole story isn't good in general, but what I'm saying is there's one crucial piece. Zacchaeus never would have climbed the tree if he didn't acknowledge his limitations. Zacchaeus would have never climbed the tree if he prioritized his status over his limitations. Because remember, Zacchaeus is the equivalent of a millionaire. He's big stuff, but he's short. He's like 5 foot. So he acknowledged his physical limitation and he climbed the tree. And that is good on its own. Is that you have to acknowledge your limitations and then take the initiative in order to get the maximum experience you need. You may not be the tallest person, but you need to get yourself in a position to where you can get the maximum experience, like at the mastermind. You may not be the tallest person, but you're going to come prepared, or you're going to make preparations in order for you to be able to see and hear the chairman clearly. Let's go back in the case of Zacchaeus. He climbed the tree because of his limitations. That's one in its own, is you have to acknowledge your limitations. But the second part to that is that the tree started growing before Zacchaeus was born. See, the tree is symbolic. The tree was just not an ordinary tree. Everything is intentional. Everything in this life that we live is intentional, whether we know it or not. Sometimes things just come up and we think it's just by chance or by fate. That's not necessarily the case, because everything in this life is intentional. So that tree that Zacchaeus was meant to climb was already put in place before he was born. Now I want that to sink in. I want that to sink in. Let's walk through it. Let's walk through it one more time. Zacchaeus, a millionaire, is going to go see Jesus. And there's already a crowd, and he's short. So he acknowledges the fact that he's short. He acknowledges the fact that he has a limitation. Excuse me. And guess what? He's bold enough to be humble. Look crazy in front of all of the people that were already there. So he renounced his millionaire status and climbed a tree because he acknowledged his limitations, but his expectations remained the same. He was going to see him no matter what, whether he had to push and shove, but he just took the initiative to be humble, and he was rewarded for it. But what I want you to really point out, what I really want you to see, is that the tree was already there intentionally. So there may come a time in your life where you need to look crazy and you need to climb your tree. And in order to climb the tree, you must acknowledge your limitations. You must acknowledge the fact that you need the tree in order to have the maximum experience. What the tree is, I don't know. It may look different for me than you. But the tree is still there nonetheless. And the tree was put there intentionally. The tree was put there on purpose because there's going to be a point in time where a short guy named Zacchaeus is going to climb a tree and get his breakthrough. So I'm gonna wrap it up. I told you I wasn't gonna be too long, but hold up, give me 1 second. All right, I had to take care of some business, but bold enough to be humble and take the initiative. You have to do something in order to get something. You have to take bold initiative humbly. You have to start climbing out of the hole as Neno started putting it. You have to be bold enough to climb a rock out of a hole in the midst of your family, your friends, your neighbors, things of that nature. Be bold enough to look crazy and not care. And then you have to be patient enough to wait it out. You have to consistently climb out of that hole until you get out. You have to climb the tree and wait in the tree until your breakthrough comes. And that's really what I want to point out. Acknowledge your limitations. Be humble enough. Show enough humility to not care about being bold. Climb your tree. It's there for a reason. It was meant for you. Your tree was meant for you. Nobody else can climb your tree but you. So in this season, in my season right now, I'm climbing a tree. I acknowledged my limitations and I'm now climbing a tree. And a lot of y'all are gonna see it. But don't don't think I'm crazy. I'm just climbing my tree. I'm gonna continue to climb that tree and I'm gonna wait in the tree until my breakthrough comes. Because I'm humble enough to be bold and look crazy and wait in that craziness until my breakthrough comes. Now, what does that mean? That means that there's going to be some things that I'm going to be doing that's not going to make a lot of sense. It's going to start to look a little this. I don't want to say that. It's going to start to look a little bit crazy. Like, bro, what is he doing? What are you doing, bro? I'm climbing my tree. And I don't care. I don't care what anybody got to say about it because I'm climbing my tree. So instead of you calling me crazy for climbing my tree, you need to climb yours. And this is 6/11/2021. 6/11/2022. I'm going to probably repost this video and I'm going to show y'all what happens when you climb your tree. When you look crazy for a season and wait for your breakthrough to come. I'm going to show y'all because I can almost guarantee there's going to be some people that's going to think I'm crazy. I already know it. I don't care because I'm bold enough to take the initiative and be humble about it and be patient enough until my breakthrough comes. So with that being said, that's my time. This video is going to be up